Hey everybody, welcome back. Today we are back to segment 1 where we talk about recovery, transformation. And I wanted to talk a little bit today about a transition I had to make, which was going from being an NFL football player, professional athlete, to not being that. What my experience was like, and then I want to talk a little bit about what I see in other people too. I had two circumstances that one perspective would say were hard and difficult, and another perspective would say were lucky and I'm grateful for. And I tend to look at them like that. And the two pieces that were part of my transition that were slightly unique was, one, I had a career-ending injury, right? I had a spinal fusion. So at 26 years old, I had that surgery and there was no more playing for me. And I will tell you guys, I had multiple interactions, phone calls, and face-to-faces with former teammates who were expressing to me how lucky I was that I had a career-ending injury. Because it's so difficult when you have devoted your entire life to being good at something. Unless there's a finite end to it, it's so difficult to know when to, in the parlance of football, hang up the cleats. Or make the change. And so guys would always express how lucky I was that I had a career-ending injury. And I see it that way now too. And the second piece for me that was fortuitous was that I went to treatment 2 months after my spinal fusion. I went to drug and alcohol treatment, and in the midst of doing that, found a whole new purpose for my life and a whole new direction for my life to go. So again, you could look at that and say, oh, yuck, you had to go to drug and alcohol rehab. I would say I would obviously not have that perspective for a multitude of reasons, but in this circumstance, particularly, how lucky was I to be gifted with a new purpose so shortly after my playing career ended. So that's how I look at it. Now, I will say this. One of the main reasons I got my coaching certification was to work with other people dealing with these kind of transitions, from being a professional athlete, being maybe a high profile entertainer, maybe just highly successful in whatever field or niche you are in, to then moving, what I will say, beyond that, and participating in life as what we'll call a normal citizen. And I see a lot of folks struggle with that. It's very hard. The identity loss is very difficult to process. People often deal with that identity loss creates a lack of purpose. And with a lack of purpose comes, all the negatives, the depression, the anxiety, the melancholy, and it can be difficult to find what's next. So I think, my advice to people that are experiencing that is, on the front end, if possible, explore other passions and interests you have outside of the one that is producing either monetary success and value for you, or power and influence for you. Find other pieces of yourself that you value, and try to lean into those. If you can't do it while you're still pursuing that path that you're on, which I totally get. For me, when I was playing ball, I didn't give myself any time, energy, or space to think about what would happen afterwards, because I believed that was a bad juju. This is what I was doing, and this was everything I was and everything I had, and it had to be that way for me to be successful. There are guys and people that it doesn't have to be like that for them, but that was my experience. So I understand if me saying pursue other interests is yeah, right. Well, cool. If that's the case, then when the transition happens, as quickly as possible, find a way to be useful and helpful in your local community and in your realm. Maybe it's your family, maybe it's your friend group, maybe it's it's your community that you live in, your city, your town. Find a place, an avenue that you can be useful and helpful. Doesn't matter what it is. It's just an action-oriented thing that leads you to get outside of yourself, get engaged in something, and immediately you'll start to feel better, number one, and number two, you'll start to discover like purposes and values that you didn't even know you had prior to it. So again, we're getting back to that idea of giving more than we take. The sooner you can get to giving, the happier you'll be. That may not be exciting, but it's true. Obviously, there's a lot of other stuff that goes into it, but I think that's a really primary action-oriented step you can take. I will also say this: if you're listening to this and you did not have the experience of being a professional athlete or an entertainer or something like that, you can still relate to what I'm talking about. There is something in your life that you pursued with more vigor than the other things in your life. And at some point you had to transition away from that being the thing you pursued to something else. So hopefully you can relate in that regard. This is where I'm going to say this to everyone listening. Scientifically, we share 99.9% of the same DNA. 99.9% of our DNA is the same. That 0.1% difference is skin color, height, weight, hair, eyes, these differentiators that we see and, in my opinion, put way too much stock into. We are 99.9% the same, all 8 billion of us. Hopefully that brings you some solace and comfort. And also, hopefully, if you're in a position like I have been in my life, man, and I still do it sometimes, guys, I'll judge others either based on something I read, something I see, something I hear. It's much easier and requires a lot less energy for me to judge than it does for me to have compassion and understanding for, right? So if I'm in a position where I don't have that much to give, boy, it sure is easier for me to place judgment on something and cast it aside. If I'm being my best self, I have the energy to sit, be compassionate, be understanding, and lean into that fact that I just told you. We are 99.9% the same. So let's look at that rather than the differences. So hope you guys have a great day. Talk to you soon. Bye.